Alright guys, what is up? I have decided to make a tutorial series for modding for Minecraft Forge. Just a spur of the moment decision, I guess. And this is going to be for 1.12.2 to help some people who are currently struggling to understand some of the changes that have happened and how, well, to help people who are getting into modding as well, so it's more for beginners really. As you can see, we're going to be using IntelliJ IDEA. It's kind of why I've got the page up. So you are going to want to download and install this. It is free, so you don't have to worry about that. Obviously it has a buy button. You will be getting the community edition of this. I don't actually know what the pro version does. I don't know what's different about it, but it's a very good IDE. It's clever naming. It's a good IDE, and I would recommend it. So make sure you've got that installed, and also make sure you have Java Development Kit installed. Otherwise, you are going to struggle. So once you've got that, you should end up with a window that looks somewhat like this. We're not going to do anything with this just yet because we need to set up, but you will want to have that ready. So you're going to want to go ahead and download Minecraft Forge for 1.12.2. Latest or recommended, really up to you. You want the MDK, Mod Development Kit. So I'm just going to download this now. Or, well, in 5 seconds. This is a great advertisement, by the way. Okay, good stuff. So, you're going to obviously want a folder for your mod, so I'm just going to plonk mine on the desktop. Tutorial mod, such creative naming, I know. Please don't be mad. So, what we're going to do is just extract Forge into this folder. And as you can see, you've got all of the files that you need. And what we need to do now is actually create some more files. It's not got enough, so I'm going to press Windows and R and just type in CMD, press enter. And what you want to do is make sure you are on your desktop. That is not the... crap, I can't remember the command. Well, anyway, we want to use the CD command to navigate into our desktop, there we go, and then our tutorial mod folder, and make sure your path actually is, you know, this path. And once you're in there, you're just going to want to run Gradle W setup decomp workspace. I imagine you can hear my keyboard, I do apologise for that. Got a really bad microphone at the moment. So this is going to go ahead and do its thing. I don't need this. Also don't need that. This may take several minutes. If you're running a 64-bit computer, I would highly recommend that you make sure you've got the 32-bit versions of Java and JDK installed as well as the 64-bit versions, because I have had experiences in the past where this is completely stopped and failed at like quite far in, and it's because I didn't have the 32-bit versions, which I believe this uses. So if you run into any problems, that might be the solution. Okay, so that has done. Now we're going to need to run another command, Gradle W IDEA, and this is going to create some files to allow us to open our project in IDEA. This one does not take half as long as the last one. And there we go. So I believe some stuff just popped up there, I wasn't looking at that. So that's all we need to do in command prompt. We can now exit. So that's great. Finally getting somewhere. So now we want to, I believe, import project. Yeah, sure, why not? And we will find said project on the desktop. So you want to look for this build.gradle file within the folder, select that and press OK. Well, that's just lovely. Can we not? Okay, that's annoying. Let me try again. You see, now I didn't want to click OK because there was an option called create separate modules per source set. I wanted to untick that. Let's not have tips, they're annoying. So we're going to wait for this down here to finish. Should actually pop up. If you don't have the bar on this left hand side, which I don't for whatever reason, you press Alt 1 to bring that up, and that's going to show you all your files. You should notice that if you've used Eclipse before, you'll notice the program is very similar. It's just, you know, nicer. So this is going to take just a moment, and we also want to get the Gradle tool window. At the moment it has nothing to show, but once this is done there will be options in there, and we're going to want to run some of those. So this process is going to set up some of the Gradle options here. There will be more folders, I believe, and it's also going to set up all of the files here. You can see this Java folder has become blue, which is important. If you right click on this, you can mark the directory as, and this is where you can mark things as your Java sources, which this one is, or resources or whatever. As you can see, we've got a resources folder. It's done this for us, but if you were to create a new project, you would have to do that yourself. If you come up to this right hand corner button and click that, this is where you will see, once it's finished doing its stuff, oh, that's not good. You will see, yeah, let me just set this up. Actually, I believe we just need to, wait, this is the development kit version, sure. So yeah, you're going to want to actually do that, make sure that your development kit is set here. I'm using the 64-bit one, but it does not matter that much, and that's actually now allowing us to do some indexing, so looks like it needed that. But this is where you will set up, yeah, you see it showed an error. This is where you will set up things like, well, actually we're not going to need to set up any stuff here, but if you were creating other projects you would have your libraries in here, you know, anything that's needed. And the artifact would be the actual jar file that you would export. Has this done? I think this is done. It is also frozen. We're off to a great start. Okay, so in the Forge Gradle tasks we're going to want to run gen IntelliJ runs, and that's going to bring some options up here which we will need. Done successful, oh good. So you can see we've now got a client and server, and this is just different run configurations. I don't remember if you can do that in Eclipse. If you can, it's a lot different, but you're going to want to edit these because you can see they've got a problem, and the problem is that we have not defined the module. So we're just going to select tutorial mod, or whatever your mod is called if you're making a different one. For both of those, hit apply. Okay, maybe it's actually the module. We probably want, yeah, we want the main one. There we go, I screwed up. So yeah, apologies for that. Okay, so now we can lighten things up a bit and actually get started. So we're gonna, for this tutorial, we're just going to set up the main mod class and probably the proxies, and then we'll get to adding blocks and items in the next ones. So I'm going to delete this example mod, it is just not needed. There we go. So we're going to make a new package on our Java directory here, and we're just going to make this, you know, whatever your reverse website would be if you don't have one, or if you do have one, you can make it that. And I'll just say tutorial mod. Sure. So we're going to create a new class, and for this I'm just going to call it tutorial. I'm not going to bother adding mod to the end of it. So we can get rid of this little window now by hiding it. Yeah, so this is a thing that IntelliJ does. It does it really well, and it's good for you. It's going to tell you if stuff is not used, or tell you if stuff is not used. That can get rather annoying. I am going to, for now, I really wish, yeah, I'm going to disable it. I really wish you could suppress it temporarily for the entire project, but you can't, I don't think. So I'm just going to quickly fix a few things up here because I don't want this line. This line is annoying. You will probably want to come into the settings and the code style for Java and work with this. If you're not happy with the way that it writes the code out, like I'm not happy with how it's put this brace on the same line, like it should be on the next line, to be honest. You can come in here and you can as you can see, you can change this, so it's quite a lot. See, I like braces to have their own line. I'm not really sure why, but you know, it's just for the neatness of the code for me. I'm actually just going to leave that line there for now. So, oh, another thing, I do not like the way it makes the classes, so I'm going to come into, I think, live templates, no? Templates. Templates. Good job. So it's this one, file and code templates. I don't need you highlighting that, I am aware of the little button. So I'm just going to come in here and just modify, what the hell? Okay, so what? Modify said class template, just to be the way I like it. What? Can you? I don't even know anymore, guys. I am made of questions. Right, is that going to work? Let's try it. Let's delete this. Tutorial. There we go, so it's made that the way it's supposed to be. Right, so what we want to do is annotate this as a mod. So we're saying @mod and hit enter. Let's actually go into presentation mode a minute. You guys might be able to see better. There you go. So @mod, and for this we're going to need 3 parameters, which are the mod ID, name and version. So let's shove those in the class as public static final strings. Strings. I confused myself there. So we're going to call this mod ID, and for this it'll just be, I don't know, how do you spell? Tutorial. Sure, that'll do. I'm having a complete brain fart now. So we'll do the name, and we're capitalizing the names here because they are final. It's just a good programming practice. If you are making something that cannot be changed, this is a constant, not a variable. So we capitalize the names usually. And then we'll do the version as well, which is just going to be 1.0. And then we can actually pass those in here now, so we're going to want mod ID. And if you don't know what kind of parameters one of these will take, you can, I believe, well, you can control click on them and have a look in here, so you can see string mod ID, string name, string version, string dependencies, use metadata, blah blah blah. You can see all the stuff that you can actually pass in there. So oh, okay. So we're going to pass those in, mod ID equals, and we actually need to pass in, like, we can't just access these, we have to say tutorial, or whatever the name of your class here is. You can see it's highlighted it in green to show you that is a reference to this. Dot mod ID, comma, name equals tutorial dot name, comma, version equals, you guessed it, tutorial dot version. Yes, so this is a thing as well. So you guys are going to want to probably do this. What the, can we? Right, I'm going to sort this all out in a minute. So you'll notice if I type in version, it doesn't show up, and this is because, rather annoyingly enough, they have set the defaults. I believe in here. Yes. So if you come into the settings, go to Editor, General, Code Completion, you want to change Case Sensitive to None. Yeah, sure. So that way, when you now type in tutorial, it might take a second here, or not tutorial, version, if I type it in like that, it shows up. And another thing that IDEA does really well is actually show you the actual values of these, since they are constants, so you can actually see it says what the contents of that string is. So that's useful. Right, so that's now done. We're going to get some, these are not really warnings, they're just hints, so we can just come over and disable the inspections for those, and you see we've got this nice little green tick up here in the corner, which just tells us that the file is good. So now we're going to need a few bits and bobs. I suppose we'll start with the events, so we'll do @event handler, and you can see IDEA will change that for us. I'm not sure why. Alright, so we need to do public void pre-initialization event, FML pre-initialization event. So we're passing in that as an event, so we can access all of the information through this parameter here. And I'm actually just going to copy and paste this because I'm lazy. And for this one we just want initialization and post initialization. So if you've been using Eclipse at all, then you'll know that Control-Shift-O will import things. On here, I don't actually, there's probably a command to import things that way, but I just like to hover over them, press Alt-Enter, and then import class. And it will actually, if I hadn't moved the cursor, I could have done it again to import this one down here. It would have jumped to it and imported it. So that's how you do that, it's Alt-Enter. Which also, I believe, has other uses. Control space will bring up your suggestions box, your autocomplete. So if you ever want, if you're in a, let's say, a block class and you want to find a function to override, you can control space and then start typing, and it'll, you know, show you suggestions based on that. So we have our 3 events. I think we've done that correctly. We're going to now set up the, well, let's first add a logger, so private static logger, and we want to bring in the one from, where is it? The one from log4j, I think it's this one. Yes. Call this logger, and we're actually going to assign that in the pre-initialization event. So the first thing we're going to do is logger equals event.getModLog. Now this is going to really wind me up, so let's get rid of that. You can suppress the warnings, which will, you know, disable them for one thing. So if you want it to tell you these things for other files, then you can come up here and actually just do suppress warnings all, like that, and that'll actually shut it up. So we've got our logger. Let's, like I said, let's do the proxies. So let's make another package, just call this proxy, and contrary to popular belief, I am going to be using common proxies. Deal with it, because, you know, the whole point of proxies is to, let's turn that off now, is to run code on either the server or the client, or both. So common would be both. So we're just going to make a class, call this common proxy, and let's just copy these events in. So let's get rid of that, and ooh, I don't actually think we need these event handler notations. I'm pretty sure we don't. We do want to make our, we want to make our class a event bus subscriber, and we want to pass in a mod ID just like before. So we're going to say mod ID equals tutorial dot mod ID. So that makes it local to this mod. I'm going to just increase the font size. I feel like it is way too small. There we go. It's not too small for me, but for you guys it might be, so I do apologise if you couldn't read that. So the common proxy will handle things like block and item initialization. So what we're going to want to do is actually add these events, because Forge 1.12 and I think 1.11 does this through registry events. It's like their new way of doing things, and at first I didn't like it, and then I figured out how it works, and now I like it. So we're going to do, this is a subscribe event, do public static void register items, and we'll do final so that this can't be changed. Registry event of type, oh wait no, dot register of type item, which is from net.minecraft item, and we're just going to call this event, and we're going to do the same thing for blocks. Okay, so we're not actually going to do anything in here just yet. We're also going to do register renderers, and we're actually going to also do register recipes, because if we want to, yeah, see, it's going to tell you about typos. I don't want it to do that. We're going to do some recipes through actual Java. I do not like using the JSON recipes at all. Can never get them to work. People are always arguing about how you format it. No one seems to actually know, so I'm just going to stick with doing it through code. We will need to create a custom class to actually do that though. But here is where you're going to register your items. Here is where you're going to register your blocks and your item blocks. And I believe also tile entities. But we'll get to that. So now let's make a client proxy, and said client proxy is going to extend common proxy, and for this we're going to do event bus subscriber again, but instead of passing in the mod ID this time, we're going to pass in a side. Actually, hold on, yeah, we can pass in the mod ID as well if we want. I think can't see any harm in doing that, so we'll say side side.client. Does it not like this now? Okay. So for some reason they've named, not nailed. I was going to say nailed it. They've named this value, and it's an array. That's a bit odd. Okay, so there we go. And in here we want to override our events. So we're just going to import these. Now, this tag here obviously means override, but I'm actually going to annotate it because I like annotations, and because it's a good practice to do so, since, you know, not all IDEs might actually have this little icon. And for now we're just going to call the super for each of these, so that will mean that when we're on the client, it's going to call these, it's going to call into here, and the super is going to call into these and run this stuff, and then we can run our code afterwards. And we're also going to do register models. Did we do models? No, we didn't, because this is a different event. Okay, so we're going to do a subscribe event, and I'm going to call this public static void register models, and this is a model registry event. we actually do override register renderers here. So register renderers is actually for doing tile entity special renderers, or TESRs. We're not going to be doing those just yet. I don't know if we will cover them, but yeah. So let's also make the server proxy, which is again going to extend common proxy, and we can basically just copy most of this stuff over. Obviously, we're going to want to change the side that this runs on, and we'll just copy these three for now. I mean, this stuff isn't really needed right now because we're not going to be doing much on the server side, but it's, you know, still good practice to have it there and be prepared. So we now need to put our proxies in here, so we're going to do outside proxy, and this is going to take in two parameters, which is the client and server side. Now these are going to be strings, so we could just hard code these in, I guess. So this is going to be your package name from within your Java root, so net.logic.tutorialmod.proxy.clientproxy. Like so. And then the server one is going to be the exact same, except we replace client with server. And it's going to give us an error because we actually need to put a private static common proxy and just call this proxy to complete that. So now we can just call proxy.preinitialization event and pass the event through. Do the same for these. Apparently I'm calling the wrong one here. There we go. So that should call that depending on, you know, which side you're on, blah blah blah. I'm not going to explain that too much because I don't fully understand it, to be honest. Like, well, I understand what it does, it's just hard to explain. So we're going to add a few useful little utility things here to our mod. So we're going to do public static string append ID, or I guess append mod ID string value. So what this is going to do is just return your mod ID plus a colon plus the value, whatever the value is. This does need to be static so that you can access it without a reference to the class. We're also going to do an instance, so let's actually put this here, I guess. So we're going to do @instance, and we're just going to say private static tutorial instance. So obviously tutorial will be whatever you've called your mod again, and that's actually it. That's all we need to do to get this set up. I think we should probably set this stuff up as well, so let's come in here and edit this. Tutorial mod. We're not using the example, so there we go. And we also want to change this to our mod. This is the mod ID. Same with up here. And you need to make sure it's the exact same as this. So hopefully that should work. Let's run this and see if our mod shows up. I'm not sure if the version, I believe one of these, if not both, will have a problem. It won't show properly, I'm not sure. It's never worked for me properly, so we might just have to hard code that in. That's the kind of thing you would have to remember to update whenever you update your mod. Change the version in here and change the version in your main class here. So 20 years later that has loaded, and I'm actually just gonna sort this all out because it's not correct. There we are. So hopefully this should show up in the mods list, and there it is. And as you can see, the version has not worked. However, the description has. So yeah, the version will actually show, look, it's pulled the 1.0, but it's still, for whatever reason, not working. So let's change that. So there you go, your mod is actually now working, if that is the case. So next time we are going to work on, I suppose, blocks first. Yeah, we'll work on blocks. So I'll see you then. Bye.